Everybody was making fun of the Falcons and taking Penix at 8 last year, but they saw a good quarterback and they took him, right? I think it was a really, really smart move in retrospect. So now what about Cousins? Should teams be interested in him?
Well, I will say this, and I think that maybe the reality was the bad move was Kirk Cousins being signed to a 4-year, $180 million contract as opposed to taking Michael Penix Jr. 8th overall. I do think teams will be interested in signing Kirk Cousins. I don't think trading for him, though, is realistic. If I were the Falcons, I would cut him before a $10 million roster bonus is due on March 17th. Once that roster bonus is earned, it is on the books for the Atlanta Falcons. What they're doing, though, and saying they're going to keep him beyond that deadline, Hannah, is they are trying to entice teams to make an offer to eventually offset some of the salary. I'd cut him now. I'd avoid paying that $10 million. I think the Cleveland Browns would be on line one if Kirk Cousins became a free agent. I understand there's a very thorough evaluation medically you need to do of Kirk. He did not look like himself for much of last year coming off of that Achilles tear. But just like it was the case with Russell Wilson last offseason, because the Falcons still owe so much guaranteed money to Kirk Cousins, a team that would eventually sign Kirk would be able to pay him basically the veteran minimum. So the Steelers got this massive cap break last year with Russell Wilson, even if the results weren't great, Tim. Such a bargain that, to me, it's a no-brainer for teams in a quarterback quandary to at least explore.
Yeah, and I think because it's going to be so good for the eventual team, I feel that's probably why, the Atlanta Falcons are like, no, we're good with this $28 million backup that, we still over $100 million to. Yeah, you nailed it, Field. The bad move was if you were going to get a quarterback in the draft, you didn't need to guarantee so much money to Kirk Cousins. Like that, that was the mistake. And now that's just the bed you're living in, much like, and you hit the nail on the head, much like Denver, made the bed with Russell Wilson. There was really nothing they could do about it. Now, I also agree with the assessment that there will be somebody interested because while Kirk Cousins is not the player he once was, he still can operate in an NFL offense as well as 31 other people on the planet, basically. And so he would be one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the NFL if he were on a roster somewhere as the starter. So whether it was Cleveland or whether it was a team like the Titans that got left out, somebody like that, it definitely makes sense. But the Falcons have to cut him loose before that can happen.
Yeah. Listen. You made the mistake signing Kirk Cousins. You're on the hook for this money, just like the Broncos and Russ, as they obviously highlighted. And so follow the path. The Broncos laid it out for you with Sean Payton and Bo Nix. They got their young quarterback and they said, we're moving on from Russ, get it out of here. They're not trying to play any other games. The Falcons are trying to get too cute with this. Just cut him loose. It's done. It's over. You made the mistake. You're going to have to pay some of the consequences, but move on. Move on. Be smart. Plan for the draft right now and any other moves that you can make, and you can legitimately don't play these dumb games. Just stay focused, man. Just stay focused. What type of great, awesome moves do you think you're going to make with Kirk Cousins, or even keeping him as a backup? Like it just doesn't make sense. Cut your losses. Move on. And certainly don't, fall into the, the sunken cost fallacy, which is essentially kind of like, I've already lost so much money on this, so whatever, may as well kind of keep going. This is the sunk cost fallacy, the phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it is clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. It's a real thing that happens, especially in business and stuff. And a lot of these guys come from business backgrounds. So just move on. The Broncos were able to legitimately get to the playoffs. And they could have won a playoff game if they played anyone, quite frankly, but the Buffalo Bills. And with Michael Penix, I already showed you guys this before. And I'm not going to go through all the numbers again, but he played great. He actually had the best beginning. The first, X amount of games. I forget if he ended up playing 3 or 4 games or 2-3 games. I forget what the final numbers were. He played the Commanders, the Giants, and I think the Panthers. So I think it was 3 games. I forget what the hard numbers are. But he had the best, beginning of his NFL career compared to any of the other rookies. And he had to do so where they literally threw him in there and said, please win, get us into the playoffs. You know, if you win, we're in the playoffs. So it all comes down to you. I mean, that's real pressure. And he played awesome. So that's your quarterback. Just move forward. And any extra money that you can get by just cutting it, like don't play any of this game. Don't try to be like, oh, you know, maybe the Browns want him, we'll sign him and we'll try this. Oh man, just move on, because now you're trying to do other things. And by trying to do these other things, you're not preparing for what you actually need to do. And now your strategy is also splintered. Now it's kind of like, well, if we're able to do this, then we can do that. But if we can't do this, then we have to do that. And then we do this. When if you just cut this all off and now you're just focusing on what you're going to do. You can focus on what you can control, which is exactly what the Denver Broncos did. And it is the exact reason why they were able to then go in. And this was obviously, they didn't have Bo Nix at this time, but they then went in, got Bo Nix. The rest is history. They knew what needed to be done. They knew what the problem was. It was clearly defined. You muddy the waters if you're the Falcons, if you try to, do any of this nonsense. The Falcons plan for Kirk Cousins to be back up in 2025. Oh my gosh. I don't even care if they're trying to play these games, because these games, it's just not going to work. If Kirk Cousins played significantly better and it was just that Penix was inevitable, sure, I could totally understand that. And I actually do think that Kirk Cousins could win. But, people are nervous. People saw what happened with Russ. People saw what happened with Cousins. People saw what happened with Aaron Rodgers. Like, right now, people are a little like, they're a little squeamish with quarterbacks. I think they said the Cleveland Browns, right. Like, the Cleveland Browns are just, they can't wait to go out and get Kirk Cousins. Right, they'll do it for $1. For sure, $1. They're not giving up any cap. You would be out of your mind. Unless you were able to, unless you were able to get him for $1, I don't know how the contract, how that would all unfold. And if you were like Kirk, you're just truly going to be here to help us grow and evolve the quarterback that we're drafting, right? That's really what your role is here. I could understand that, but you're only going to give up so much for that as well. It's just move on. Make your offseason clear and defined so you can make the best decision. Because guess what? Your offseason last season was not clearly defined. And because of that, you paid $180 million to a quarterback who just came off his Achilles injury, and then you drafted another quarterback. That's not a good plan. And now you're either going to have him as a backup or cut him. Therefore, that was a bad offseason. That was a bad path that you followed. And you might get lucky that Penix is just a great quarterback. That's your get-out-of-jail-free card. Congrats. You play that card and you move on. Leave the casino. Just go home. Put the drink down. This team could be legit. They could. I mean, that's what's so fascinating about the Falcons, and especially this is where the comparison with the Broncos falls, because the Falcons can immediately win the division immediately, and then they could have a home playoff game. I mean, that sounds pretty cool to me. The Broncos, they have to go up against the Chiefs, and then you have Harbaugh and the Chargers with Justin Herbert. And now the Raiders are making moves. I mean, if you're the Falcons, are you really that intimidated by the Buccaneers? You won with Kirk Cousins. Are you really intimidated by the Panthers? You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Just be smart. Just be smart, man. Just be smart. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys think the Atlanta Falcons should do with Kirk Cousins? And, I guess just overall moving forward. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.